Hey guys, welcome back. We're into the third week of this 2020 goal of mine. I'm still full of energy, raring to go, but you know how it is. It's always like that at the start of these challenges, these goals that you set yourself, you know, when you're really excited at the beginning, but the challenge is really going to be how consistent you can be, and that's kind of going to be a driving theme for what I'm trying to achieve, I guess, over here. So anyway, how have I been doing? For the last week, I've put in really quite a lot of energy into basically learning how to program, or rather quite a lot of hours into learning how to program in Android, which is obviously the programming language that I need to write this mobile app that I'm going after. And that's basically going to be what this video is going to be about. So I want to take the time to sort of show you a little bit of what I've learned so far and how far I've come along in the little bit of time that I've had. So yeah, come along, let's get into it. Okay, so as I said, I've been basically spending the past few weeks learning how to program in Android. And for those of you who've done any programming before, what you basically do is you write your very first program, and what it does is it says hello world, and it's kind of like an old nerd joke, you know, when you write your first computer program, you run it, and the first thing it does is like, hello world, I'm alive, kind of thing. And that's typically what you do. So obviously that's what you normally try and do in Android Studio, or in when you start programming in Android. The thing with Android Studio is it kind of does that work for you. I guess the guys at Google kind of thought writing the Hello World application is a little bit too easy. So they kind of pretty much, when you start a project, before you even do anything, it kind of does that work for you. So let me show you what I mean. If I just go, I create a new project in Android. There's, let's call it, I don't know, John's first application. Okay, so basically all it's doing here is just creating a project. Like that. I've written no lines of code, done no design, have done absolutely nothing. And if I simply run this project, what it does is it basically runs on what's called an Android emulator. So it's basically like an emulator of your phone. So you can see it's brought up this phone, and it already says hello world. So it's like if my first app, as you can see here, it says John's first app, is kind of come alive, and it just says hello world. I've not actually written a single line of code. So that's obviously too easy a challenge for my first application. So with this online course that I've been doing, I've been learning some things obviously about how to program in Android, and one of the apps that it has a little bit of a challenge in is to write a lyrics finder application. So essentially what you do is you type in the name of an artist and you type in the name of a song, and it basically will search the web and pull the lyrics for you. So that's essentially what my first app is going to do, or has done. I've actually already written the app. So let me just open that and show that to you. Okay, now that works. Now, let's see. Now, no big expectations here, please. Obviously there's no great design or really clever stuff or anything like that. It's basically my first application. I'm still learning, but I think I've kind of got some good basics going. As you can see, I have this little form designed where it says here, enter the artist's name, enter the name of the song, and then basically get the lyrics. So this is kind of already, just to show you what I've done. I mean, very basic. The application name, so let me show you. So I've called it John's Lyrics Finder, and I can call it anything that I want, obviously, so just as proof that it's something that I wrote. And then, yeah, that looks good and ready to go. Okay, so if I basically run this application, again, it will stick that onto a Android emulator. As you can see, this is my app, John's Lyrics app. So let's put in, I don't know, let's try Bottom. And let's do his song Love Right In. And let's search for that. And you can see it's pulled back the lyrics for the song. So for those of you who know this track, you'll see that the lyrics are pretty much right. You see? Okay, enough of that. Okay, so enough of that. Basically, that was just to prove that it's really actually a working app. And let's try something else. If I type in, I don't know, let's do Michael Jackson. Oops. Oops. Smooth Criminal. I pull those lyrics back. Oops. You can see, for those of you who do know the song, those are the lyrics. So I'm kind of proud of that for a first app. You can see you've been hit by a Smooth Criminal, for those of you who know the track. I don't have that in the background to play this time, but yeah, for those of you who know, you'll see that that's pretty much the lyrics. So this is basically my first app working, and just also, I guess the other thing I can do is also show you that that's working on my phone. Okay, so on my phone, what you have is the John Finder app right there, and you can see the same sort of thing. So if I go in here and I type in so I'm a bit slow typing there because I'm holding the phone in a bit of an awkward way, and you can see again it's also pulled back the lyrics, and this is an app that's just there, John's Lyric Finder app, which is basically just running on my phone. So yeah, so that's basically my first Android app. Okay, so that was my first app in Android. I'm actually really quite proud of that. I've spent really quite a few hours over the last week. I've basically worked every day. I get up at least, and I do at least an hour study in the mornings before work, and then I do a few hours in the evening as well. I've actually been reading two other books, two online books at the same time, and the video training course that I'm doing, because some things are sort of easier to get from certain books, and some things are just easier to watch on the video. And if you don't know, so programming an app in Android, you actually have to learn two programming languages. So the first thing you have to do is learn Java programming, and then after that you have to learn specifically Android programming, which is based on the syntax or the language of Java programming. So to give you a sort of an analogy, if you speak, if you're trying to learn to speak Swiss German as an example, first you kind of learn High German, and then from that kind of gives you the framework and the general sort of, if you like, vocabulary, and then you learn the more specific Swiss German. And it's kind of a little bit like that with this programming. You first have to learn Java programming, and then from that you have to learn Android programming. And that's the reason that I was using a couple of books and this video, because one is kind of focused on Java programming, one is focused on Android programming, and then sometimes I needed the videos, which kind of brings both things together, and sometimes it's just easier to see and learn that way. But anyway, I ended up putting in really quite a lot of hours over the last week. I'm quite happy with what I've done. One thing I will say, even though I am kind of happy with how things went last week, sometimes I was a little bit distracted. It was a bit difficult to kind of get focus, and also doing these YouTube videos. So every week my goal is kind of basically to sort of prepare them, script them usually on a Saturday, and then record it on a Sunday or something like that. If it's a really short one, I'll do it all in one day. And that's kind of also been a little bit challenging, because I have to do the video editing, and that kind of takes a bit of time as well. And what I did kind of notice a little bit last week was that threw me a little bit, because it meant all of the hours that I spent working towards the goal weren't actually all entirely on the goal itself. I was a bit distracted with the YouTube, so I had to set up the YouTube channel, and then do the video editing. I had to learn how to do some of the camera recording stuff. You might see some of this stuff is obviously not so professional, but learning all of that as well as doing the challenge is quite, doing the challenge of trying to write this app is quite a lot to take on. And of course you still have your normal life going on. And I think that's always the case when you're going for these goals or you're really trying to accomplish something or learn something. It's not like if all of life stops and you can just spend all of your time on your goal. So you kind of have to balance a little bit of all of that. So what I will be doing over the next week is I still want to, of course, maintain my focus, but I will try and put together a quick plan. And this is where my sort of skills as a project manager comes into play, knowing how to plan and execute on things. So I'm not going to make it too fancy, come up with some great PowerPoint slide or anything like that, but just to have a very simple plan that tells me by this week I want to try and achieve this, and just kind of look over it during the week and make sure I sort of stay on point. And I think this is also something that helps you if you are trying to achieve a goal, to always have incremental steps that you're kind of watching and checking to make sure that you hit them whether you monitor every day or every week or every month. So I'm going to do mine weekly, as I'm doing the videos weekly. So I'll try and do that again for next week, and by the end of next week what I hope to have is a sort of a high level plan with some kind of milestones of what I want to achieve over the next few months, to keep me steering or driving in the right direction. And just basically to keep me focused. So that's going to be a big part of what I'm doing for next week. Obviously I still have to do a lot more reading. That was a very simple app that I just wrote, and I had a lot of help because I was obviously following an online course. With my own app, it's going to be entirely my own thoughts, my own ideas, my own designs and stuff like that I have to do. So that's going to be a lot more work, but yeah, I think good so far. And what else do I want to try and achieve for next week? I probably will start a little bit of the design of the application. As I kind of mentioned already at the start, the goal is to build this grocery shopping app, which will essentially figure out my shopping list for me. And there are a lot of components to that. I've kind of already started thinking about it, and there are a lot of components to building such an app. So I've got to start designing that, which means actually putting some things down on paper. So obviously I'm not going to have that done in 1 week, but I'll start putting the pieces for that together. So I think that's going to be a lot of my focus for next week. Yeah, so yeah, still excited. Still happy with what I've learned so far. And yeah, let's keep going, and I shall see you at the next challenge. Have a good week, guys. Bye.